This is The Scream. It's a spectacular and timeless expression of human anxiety or fear. It was first painted in 1893 by the Norwegian artist Edvard Munch, an artistic genius, or maybe I should call him a madman. Munch actually made 5 versions of it, including one that you can color yourself, but more on that later. It shows a figure with a big mouth, hands along his or her head, on a pier with 2 people. Wait, maybe it's better to describe this painting in Munch's own words. He described it as follows. I was walking along the road with 2 friends. The sun was setting. Suddenly, the sky turned blood red. I paused, feeling exhausted, and leaned on the fence. There was blood and tongues of fire above the blue-black fjord and the city. My friends walked on, and I stood there, trembling with anxiety, and I sensed an infinite scream passing through nature. So, to understand how Munch came to this painting, we need to take a step back. Munch painted The Scream when he was 30 years old, and here are some works by him from the decade before. Munch was a very productive painter, but as you can see, his works are not exactly very polished. They all look a bit rough, as if created in a hurry. But these works are still a far cry from The Scream. In the 3 years before The Scream, after his father had died, leading to a dark period in his life, he did start to experiment a bit more. And works like these already show some of the more abstract nature and brushstrokes of The Scream. So, it's not that Munch came up with this idea out of nothing. The year before he painted Despair, which has many common elements with The Scream, which becomes clear if we put both of them next to each other. Most elements in the background show great similarities, and the colors are not very realistic, changing it from a scene taking place in a specific location and time period to something of more timeless quality. Comparing the 2 works, it is the person we see that is quite different. In Despair on the left, we clearly see a man with a coat and a hat, but in The Scream, the figure has been abstracted. It is not even clear if we see a man or a woman. Are we looking at a real person or a skeleton? It makes it much more mysterious and intriguing. And stylistically, the shape of the figure and the brushstrokes Munch used fit much better with the rest of the painting. This style can be labeled as expressionism, which differs from symbolism because the way the idea is expressed is not done realistically, but the form and subject of the painting are chosen in such a way that they complement each other. Here's a sketch that Munch made of The Scream, probably just before he painted his first version in tempera paint. Having seen his work Despair from the year before and the sketch, we know that Munch worked on the idea for The Scream for an extended period of time. But the simplicity of the brushstrokes makes it look quite spontaneous, as if he had a vision of The Scream which he quickly put on a piece of cardboard. In 1904, at an exhibition in Copenhagen, a tiny inscription was discovered on the most famous version of The Scream from 1893. It is located in the sky on top of the paint, but it is quite small. The translation reads, "Could only have been painted by a madman." Not surprisingly, it was first thought to be added by some crazy visitor. Here you can see how small it is in a color photograph, but the text becomes clearer in this image taken with an infrared camera. It has taken 117 years for researchers to actually find out who the madman was who wrote this quote. It was Edvard Munch himself. And while there is no conclusive evidence on when he added this inscription, most signs point at the year 1895, 2 years after he completed the original. The reception to the painting was very critical, something that bothered Munch greatly. As an example, one art critic wrote that, "We cannot consider Munch a serious man with a normal brain." And it seems that this scribble was Munch's reaction to the negative response. If only Munch would have known how iconic this painting would become. So the question is then whether Munch really was a madman or not. Well, it's a bit like the story of Vincent van Gogh, a brilliant artist who also suffered from some mental problems. Munch already had lost his mother and favorite sister at a young age, and Munch's family had a history with mental diseases. Both his father and grandfather were diagnosed back in the day with melancholy, and his sister Laura was diagnosed early in life with a mental disease. Munch was aware that he was struggling mentally and frequently made some references to it in his letters. Munch's mental health was also questioned by many others. Works like this self-portrait with cigarette were considered so absurd that people could not imagine that he was sane in his mind. But Munch embraced his quirks, stating that, "My sufferings are part of myself and my art. They are indistinguishable from me, and their destruction would destroy my art. I want to keep those sufferings." Later in life, he did get treatment for his mental issues and his health significantly improved, leading to brighter themes in his art, like you can see in these examples from 1910 and later. As mentioned in the beginning, Munch made at least 5 versions of this work. The first one is a pastel version from 1893 painted on cardboard. The second one, painted the same year and arguably the most famous one, is painted using tempera paint and wax crayon on cardboard, and it measures 91 by 73.5 centimeter. 2 years later, in 1895, he created 2 more versions. There is this pastel version, which sold in 2012 for the staggering amount of almost $120 million to an anonymous private collector. And then there is this print created from a lithograph stone. He could use it to print multiple versions that could be colored each in a unique way. Munch made about 45 prints before he repurposed the lithograph stone, and he hand-colored several of these prints himself. The nice thing is that we can actually use this print version for ourselves and create our own variation of the scream. I'll leave a link to this lithograph in the description box below this video if you are interested in some meditative coloring time. Although I don't know if this subject is the best one to relax. Finally, in 1910, Munch created one more version in tempera. He made it during a period that he was playing around a bit with his earlier compositions. This version made the headlines when it was stolen from the Munch Museum in 2004, but luckily it was recovered 2 years later. After his first version of the Scream, Munch made a few more works in this style. In 1894 and 1895, he created works like this one entitled Anxiety. This one called Despair. And these 2 versions of Melancholy. So I hope this gave you some new perspective on one of the most iconic paintings ever made. If you enjoyed this video, I would love to hear any thoughts you may have in the comment section down below. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel a ton. Thanks for watching.